Now to Mexico, which has cut diplomatic ties with Ecuador. This is after police raided the Mexican embassy in Quito. And what was the raid for? To arrest former Ecuadorian Vice President Jorge Glas. He was seeking refuge there. Mexico had offered him political asylum, which did not go down well with Ecuador, so they raided the embassy to arrest him. The move has led to outrage across the region and the globe. Embassies are inviolable sovereign territories. Raids on diplomatic premises are unheard of. It's a red line that countries do not cross, which is why this one is a big deal. Our next report tells you about the diplomatic repercussions that Ecuador could face.
The year was 2012. Julian Assange was a wanted man.
Human rights system.
The WikiLeaks founder was seeking asylum, so he was hauled up at the Ecuadorian embassy in London. The UK threatened to raid the embassy. Of course, they did not go ahead with it. But Ecuador was up in arms. They said any raid would be a breach of international law. It would violate the Vienna Convention. Last Friday, Ecuador violated the same Vienna Convention by raiding the Mexican embassy in its capital. What was the raid for? It was to capture this man, former Ecuadorian Vice President Jorge Glas. Glas was Vice President from 2013 to 2018. Last year, he was sentenced to 6 years in jail. This was due to corruption claims. He was released from prison in November, but Ecuador issued another warrant. So Glas sought refuge in the Mexican embassy. On Friday, Mexico granted him political asylum. Ecuador viewed the action as illegal. So the police raided the Mexican embassy in Quito. Special forces surrounded the embassy. Agents scaled the walls. Mexico says the head of mission tried to prevent the invasion, but he was pushed to the ground. Glas was captured. He has now been transferred to a high-security prison. Of course, the move did not go down well with Mexico. Embassies are considered as inviolable sovereign territory. This is according to the Vienna Convention, a treaty governing international relations. It states that a country cannot intrude upon an embassy on its territory. Abiding by these rules is seen as sacrosanct. It's a red line countries rarely cross. However, it is not the only rule Ecuador broke. It also violated a regional agreement, known as the 1954 Convention on Diplomatic Asylum. This allows individuals to seek asylum in embassies. But Quito argues otherwise. It says Mexico interfered in its internal affairs.
By receiving Mr. Glas, the Mexican embassy prevented him from reporting to the judicial authorities on a weekly basis. In doing so, they interfered with Ecuador's democratic institutions in clear violation of the fundamental principle of non-interference in the internal affairs of other countries.
The move has led to a diplomatic storm across the region and the world. Mexico was quick to sever ties with Ecuador. President Obrador called it a violation of Mexico's sovereignty. It pulled its diplomatic personnel from the country. Nicaragua followed suit. Rebukes poured in from the entire region. All governments across political spectrums slammed it. The US condemned the violation of the Vienna Convention. The United Nations said it was alarmed by the raid. Mexico plans to take its case to the ICJ. That's the International Court of Justice. Of course, Ecuador will argue that Mexico sheltered a prisoner, but it is unlikely that the court will rule against Quito. The punishment could include a fine or removal of Ecuador from multilateral organizations. Either way, this diplomatic storm is far from over.